education. From 1978 till 2017, I was an organization development and change management consultant in private practice, partnering with leaders on complex cultural and system change. So engagement has been a part of my life for a very long time. My perspective is this: despite being what I think is well-intentioned, I want to talk about two different kinds of community engagement. First is the type work I'm doing now, which is making a public comment. And what I would say is, despite being well-intentioned, the West Linn citizen engagement process is systemically flawed and serves to undermine citizen trust in the council, commissions, and other parts of government. Let me be specific. There's time for citizen opinion in most councils, commissions, and meetings. Citizens offer written comment, or they have 3 or 5 minutes to make public comment, as I'm doing tonight. The ground rules of these engagement processes allow only one-way communication, a mini speech, as it were. There's no interaction or questions for clarification or understanding. So think about the folks who come and testify in one setting or another. As a result, individuals often leave feeling unheard. There's no interaction for questions or clarification or paraphrasing. So it would be as if my wife said to me, I have an issue with you about doing the dishes, and I don't think you do enough of them, and I think you have an expectation that I should be doing all of the dishes and all the kitchen work and all the cooking, and it's getting under my skin. And my reaction is, thank you for your comments. Think how that plays out. Well, that's essentially what happens when folks make public comment in public meetings. And if they carry emotion into the event, they have a passion about it, and they have that reaction to them, then they leave almost certainly more angry and frustrated. And I think that particular process serves to exaggerate the angst we see too often in public meetings. So rather than building trust and understanding, this process contributes to this kind of painful interaction that too often occurs. Now, there's another kind of interaction and community engagement, and that's the one that Darren is going to talk about tonight. And that's a very sophisticated engagement plan, and I've read through it. But that plan is largely information out, intending to educate folks, not intending to engage them. And it's only in the engagement that folks either have a chance to change their minds, to have greater understanding, or come up with new ideas. So I have some suggestions for you to consider. First, change the rules in public settings to allow for two-way communication. This could simply be paraphrasing testimony or asking questions for clarification or understanding. It takes a bit of practice, and if the testimony is critical of the particular group, it takes a bit of courage.
A participant has joined the meeting.
So that's one. In large community engagement exercises, such as the one you're doing, or Darren and the city is doing with House Bills 101, 1, 2, and 3, it's particularly important to define what is open to change. What is negotiable? What feedback will make a difference? Until we do that, folks have an expectation that what they say will be heard and make a difference, and it may not be possible given the construct of these House bills. So that's another. I would ask you to consider engagement process that encourage more interaction between people. And there are technologies now that let us bring large groups of people together in small groups. And the result of those interactions, and you need some sophisticated facilitation, then you begin to see changed minds. Then you begin to see consensus. You see open minds. So, two suggestions I'm making to you. One is change what happens in all the meetings that we participate in, how we can engage, how public servants can engage those who offer their opinion. And second, look hard at larger engagement processes, such as the one with these House bills. I think they should be less information out and more processes that engage more folks to talk, to listen, to be heard, to think through what the implications are. This becomes particularly important because these House bills are guaranteed to produce a lot of conflict. The surveys say, yes, we want affordable multifamily housing, not in my neighborhood. That sets up a dynamic that needs to be carefully thought through. I'm happy to answer questions now or some other time if you wish.
Okay, thank you for that. I agree with you. Anybody else have any comments they want to make? Questions?
If I can say some things, Shannon.
Go ahead.
Bob, first, I'd like to thank you for that contribution. We've had similar conversations on the Planning Commission, and in fact, I would like to invite you to come to the Planning Commission and make that same presentation, if you would, if you have time to do that. The Planning Commission tries to be open to commentary from the public, and we try to ask questions. We don't always have the authority to deal with the issues that are raised that the public brings to us because it falls out of sync with the planning docket or things like that. But we try. There have been issues that have come before us where we've brought it back into code changes and things like that as we can. And I guess the last point is that last week, in regard to House Bills 2001 and 2003, Commissioner Metlin made a similar statement. And just his concern is that right now the big picture is sort of lost. I mean, we have the details from the bills. We have sort of a path forward, but we don't necessarily, I mean, other than the surveys, we don't necessarily have a viewpoint from the community and how this is all going to meld together. And hopefully that's how the outreach is going to happen coming out of this plan that Betty and Darren have worked on. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But if you would at some point, if you're available in June, I'm not sure if we're going to have a meeting next week, the first meeting in June, just because we don't seem to have anything for the agenda at this point. But at the second meeting, that would be great if you could attend. Thank you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Technology, my apologies. Thank you for your comment and an invitation. I'm happy to do it. I would add that surveys are essentially useless in terms of helping to drive change because they do not have emotional content in them. If we want change, data that's closer to the present makes a difference. And so if I wanted to find out what was really going on, I would want groups of people to interact with one another and have to make statements that are more in the present about what they think about a particular issue. And you can do that with questionnaires on a whiteboard, for example, and people check off, 1 through 7. That makes a public statement. Now they've come out a little bit, and that data and that position can be talked about, and we can begin to explore what that means. So those are some of the ways. I would like to hope that the House bill engagement takes place. And I'm happy to share my experience and the many errors I've made over the years about how to do this stuff, as well as some of the successes. So it's important what you're doing. This is, I think, a central part of what can make West Linn a better place, a smarter place.
Chair Knight, can I make a comment?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Bob for attending the meeting tonight. He made similar comments at last week's meeting of the Neighborhood Association presidents, and I thought they were spot on comments, and I asked him to come here tonight under public comment and just pass the same comments along to us for our outreach project. And I appreciate your time, Bob, to do that. And it sounds like you may have another engagement coming up as well. So didn't mean to get you involved that much, but I do appreciate it very much. So thanks.
All right, anyone else? All right, thanks, Bob, for coming. All right, moving on, we have approval of meeting notes. Anyone have any changes they need, or otherwise I'll take a motion? Yep.
I
Go
have
ahead,
one
Ed.
minor edit, I think, and item number 6, approval of meeting notes. The first sentence, committee member Wolvatney noted that the 8/25/20 meeting had already been approved, I think is what we want there instead of be approved.
Okay.
Other than that nitpick, I don't see anything else I disagree with.
Okay, someone want to move to accept the minutes?
I'll move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes. Want to call roll on that? Someone? Eddie or Darren?
Sure, I can take care of that. All right. Mr. Swartz,
Yes.
Mr. Watney,
Yes.
Ms. Matthews. And there's a caller online. Is that Dan Tedrow? Not sure, but anyhow, we'll go with Ms. Olson.
Yes.
All right, and Chair Knight.
Yes.
Okay, so minutes are approved.
All right, thank you. And
Hey guys, sorry, this is Dan Tedrow, the caller. Forgive me. I had to join a little late. My mistake.
all right. And moving on, we have the HP 2001 public engagement plan. So that's Betty.
And so I'm going to go ahead and share my small presentation. Can you go ahead and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And it's just a presentation, right? Just a PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm here to present our public engagement plan for House Bill 2001. So right now we're here to talk about phase 2 of what's known as the Housing Choices Bill. And as we know, this would go ahead and allow for middle housing to be allowed on lots or parcels that are that go ahead and allow for detached single-family housing. So phase 1 is still expected to be completed next month. And this is phase 2, where we are trying to go ahead and get that engagement process started regarding those policy discussions with the community, and go ahead and allow for that legislative adoption process, and have that recommendation from the Planning Commission be heard before City Council to go ahead and have those whatever it is that we go ahead and adopt be part of our community development code going forward. So in that public engagement plan, we went ahead and created this graphic to depict the timeline for our public engagement plan. June 2021 being our public engagement approach, and our engagement kickoff July through August of this year, followed by kind of the meat of this all, where we go ahead and do that big public outreach at the end of the year, and have that proposed code amendment package going January through March of next year. Then lastly, our adoption process in April to June of 2022. So this is kind of just highlighting our key materials that we would expect to be completed in each of the phases and our events. So phase 2A, our public engagement approach time. So like I mentioned earlier, in June 2021 of this year, so next month, we're going ahead and developing those educational materials alongside with the consultants. I think what we're expecting from them is kind of this presentation that we can go ahead and use along in our whole engagement plan, kind of detailing House Bill 2001 and what it means, and kind of our policy questions for the community. And that is then followed by our FAQ brochures and fact sheets. Again, what is House Bill 2001, what it means for people in the community, and defining those kind of common terms that people are unaware of, getting them engaged in the process of getting to know more. Then followed by our website updates. And that would also be like something that definitely, our fact sheets and brochures, as well as our website updates, will go ahead and be part of all the phases. Just something that we would continually update and look forward to making more robust as we go along, and as we get more feedback from people and just more questions going along. So phase 2B, our engagement kickoff. So in that phase, we're going to go ahead and try to get some explanatory videos, probably get some of our elected or appointed officials to go ahead and explain House Bill 2001, and try to just get more engagement materials out there through video form, and kind of all the possible ways that we can to get people to just more easily grasp things going forward. And scheduling our outreach events for the future, our open houses, our briefings to Planning Commission and City Council, and followed by our press release. And phase 2C, our meaty component here, our main public engagement happening at the end of the year, where we go ahead and do the majority of our social media outreach and kick that off, posting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, going ahead and doing articles on tidings, and also our city newsletter, and visiting the 11 neighborhood associations. And it was brought to our attention that, you know, some of them don't meet every month, some of them meet bi-monthly, so going ahead and scheduling that in advance so we can go ahead and get them on board with kind of going ahead and talking to the community members in those neighborhood associations. And followed by our open houses. And I think it'd be quite important here to go ahead and see where things are along, you know, the way with the pandemic. Since we don't know if we'll be like fully in person, going ahead and still trying to do the virtual and the in-person meetings or both. I think it's something that we still are unsure about at this point in time. And scheduling like a minimum of 2 events for each round to go ahead and kind of do different times. Or some days don't work for people, or sometimes are not the best. In our briefings to commissions and committees like EDC, HRB, Planning Commission, City Council, and followed by our online survey to go ahead and gauge that community interest for those policy questions and question that the community can actually have, like Bob was saying, you know, what is negotiable, what is on the table here, what can they actually change, and how they feel towards these changes. Phase 2D at the beginning of next year would be going ahead and going forward with that proposed code amendment package and updating our social media, our website, our fact sheets if those do need updating, and going ahead and having our final open house and our neighborhood association presidents meeting and kind of getting that outreach and having staff go ahead and get feedback on that proposed code amendment package, doing the work sessions with City Council. And lastly, phase 2E, which is our adoption process, as we have to go ahead and adopt House Bill 2001 by June of next year. So that would go ahead and kick off another press release and providing the timeline for this adoption to get people's input and feedback before the Planning Commission hearing, as well as doing those website fact sheet updates, social media outreach articles, and having that Planning Commission hearing be in April and May, and having that go before City Council in June sometime. So that's pretty much it, and I'm open to questions. So thanks for your time.
Anybody have questions? I can't see anyone, so you can just talk if you have a question.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
Shannon, are you on the citizen committee involvement meeting, or do you work for the city?
Me, I'm just the chair of this committee.
Okay, I just wanted to I'm new, so I'm just trying to understand if the person.
So Betty, who just presented, works for the city, and Darren, who's on this, is also the city. Those are the only 2 city.
Okay, so Shannon and Darren, or Lynn.
No, Betty and Darren.
Betty and Darren. Okay, good. All right.
I have a question. This is Vicky.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the timeline, is it pretty tight? If we run into any type of I don't know, not crisis, but something that kind of throws us off the track, is there a little bit of buffer, a little bit of room in our schedule, or how tight is that schedule?
Yeah, Betty, I'll take this one, Betty. Yeah, that's a good question, Vicky. So we are mandated by the state rules to adopt code that implements House Bill 2001 by June 30th of 2022. So we do have to meet that deadline. If we don't, then the what's called the model code, which the state put into place, then the model code becomes what we implement moving forward.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah, Darren, I understand that. But within that timeline, you have your two bookends, but in the middle, if anything strange were to happen.
yeah, so we do have a little bit of flexibility.
Okay.
Like for instance, like phase 2D, if we needed to extend the public outreach and the 2C phase into the new year, we could.
Okay.
We've tried to build in enough work sessions with the planning commission and city council, like in that 2D phase process, in order to give them plenty of time to review it and get feedback from the community themselves. But yeah, if we had to compress it a little bit, we could.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope everyone got a chance to look through the actual document itself. It gives, it just expands a little bit more on what Betty presented to you here. She was just trying to give you an overview of each phase, but the document itself has a little more detail in it.
Chair, can I make a comment or two?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty, for that presentation. I think it was well done, explained the process well. And I appreciate both your and Darren's work on the document that we have for review. I did look it over. It's very comprehensive. I think it covers all of the outreach plans that we had talked about to the community. Obviously, a big part of this is education, because I'm sure a lot of our community is not aware of HB 2001 or 2003. So that will have to be a big piece of it. But also, as Bob McCarthy stressed earlier, we would like to make this, I think, as much as possible, from my standpoint anyway, an interactive process with the community, so that we're getting feedback and we're getting feedback that actually is useful to those developing the code language for the future. So again, not just saying, okay, we've checked off that box and we did a survey. We want to be able to get some meaningful input where we understand the community's feelings on this and be able to use that towards the ultimate goal of developing the new code. Also, the other day at the NAP meeting, the Neighborhood Association President's meeting, we were discussing this topic. I give a report on the CCI committee to the neighborhood presidents. And somebody mentioned something quite simple. It's an old adage, but I think we should keep it in mind as well, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think when we develop our outreach to the community for the educational aspect and also for their input to us, we should try to keep that in mind and develop our materials to make them as easy to understand as possible. And I think sometimes people are visual learners more than just reading a bunch of text. So I think it would be useful to remember that when we work with our consultants to develop the various modes of outreach that we're going to have for the community. But with that, I think we're off to a great start, and I look forward to seeing what the consultants come up with as far as the various means of outreach and the various brochures, et cetera, that they put together for us. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Darren, and yeah, I appreciate your comments, Ed, and I agree wholeheartedly that yeah, having something that's more visual than just a bunch of text on a piece of paper is always way more effective. And we do have built in to this engagement plan to bring these materials to the CCI for your review and feedback also during that I'll just keep saying these phase numbers during that phase 2B, the engagement kickoff. So yeah, once we have some materials ready to be reviewed, we'll bring them to the CCI for your feedback. Because it's always helpful to get outside of our planner heads and, you know, allow someone else to look at it. So
Thank you, Darren. Thanks.
That's going to be one of my questions. So good. We're going to see. Anyone else have questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions. So I always think it's good to, you know, obviously get information into their feedback to the people, the planners and stuff like that that are creating the code. But I also think it's important to have that two-way communication with the actual decision makers as well. And I kind of feel, kind of building on what Bob said, is it's kind of like last minute where the citizens hear from, or the council hears from citizens, where it's kind of too late to make a lot of changes, especially if we're working on a tight timeline. So is there a way to ensure that council, and maybe it's more of a question for Mary, that council is involved in at these sessions, either with like a town hall kind of an deal, or assigning council to go to different neighborhood associations where this is presented, so that the council can hear directly from what the citizens' concerns are way ahead of time before it's, you know, last minute changes are needed.
Yes, thank you, Shannon. I think I heard in phase 2B, is that right? Or 2C, that it would be elected officials and other appropriate people would be speaking at, you know, meetings, or, you know, whether it's neighborhood meetings or maybe specific town halls for this one topic alone. Which phase is that?
yeah, so that's
2C.
2C. Yep. And
Yeah.
yeah, so the way it's been set up is we have 2 open houses and also 2 briefings before the city council in that sort of October to December timeframe. And yeah, and we would be totally open to, you know, whatever works best. We don't have to have a traditional open house where people just come and walk around and look at stuff. We could do it as a town hall where city council could hear directly from citizens on just this one topic. So we have some options that we could employ.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Shannon.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you, Shannon.
Yep. And on the website aspect, is it going to be like a separate, easy to find URL instead of having to try to find where this stuff is on the website, which is always a problem, like we did for the, you know, the streetscape?
Yeah, so we hope to have some money in the budget to hire a consultant to help us with some of this. We're also going to try to get some more grant funding, but yeah, hopefully that would be one of the tasks for the consultant team, is to develop a sort of a standalone page, so it's easy to get to, you know, as you're saying, instead of buried in the planning page somewhere.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the plan, is to make the information as easily accessible as possible.
I have
Okay.
a question, Shannon.
Yeah.
I was just curious, and I don't know if this was already said, and if it wasn't, I missed it, I apologize, but is there a plan for the CCI to have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission on this topic? Or would that be helpful, or?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that's probably a good idea. I don't think we really had that.
This is Gary. The Planning Commission would love that. In the past few years, since CCI has been kicked off again, we haven't had a joint meeting. We've had some things go from CCI to the Planning Commission and then to Council. So I would wholeheartedly welcome that joint meeting. So, and I think the rest of the commissioners would as well.
Well, Council President Relier and I were just talking about this yesterday, I think. And I know he has more experience on planning commission and with the CCI, and he indicated the history of the CCI and the involvement with planning. So I thought maybe that would be, especially with this particular rollout, it might be helpful. More heads together, the better.
Yeah, I think that's great. And didn't we have someone, I don't remember who it was, that was representing CCI on the group that put this whole, was working with the consultants before this?
Yeah, it was me. It was Vicky.
Okay. And did you have any concerns that came out of those meetings that you would like to express that
A
we should know?
participant has left the meeting.
I don't know. There's an education opportunity to educate the citizens of Westland, because it's kind of confusing, and yeah, it's a big topic, and I think there's a lot of pushback because people just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I expect that that's probably going to be the biggest hurdle for staff, is dealing with a bunch of pushback. It's not their fault. We should all be just complaining to our senators, state senators. All right. Anybody else have any questions or concerns?
Chair, if I could make a comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the Planning Commission has had discussions. I guess one of the issues that we've had around public comment is that, at least currently, because everything is a virtual meeting for, a year now, and our public comments they have plummeted. I mean, we rarely ever have anyone sign up for a time to make public comment. And so anything that can be done to bring all of this into a live, I hesitate to say face-to-face because of COVID, but a more interactive, as Bob McCarthy said, a more interactive process, the better. You just get more from it. I mean, I think we all get more from it if we're in the same room, or at least in the same area. And so I don't know if there are events that can be held when the weather is nicer, and it's all dependent on the weather. If we can have things outdoors, or line up a high school gym, or a large area like that to get some contribution, or I think that's what it's going to take to get education and get the outreach going for some aspects of this. So otherwise, I don't think that we're going to be able to catch people's attention well enough. And then just one other point, Vice Chair Matthews, Charlie Matthews on the Planning Commission, made a request at last week's meeting to the planning department that there should be consideration for notifying all of the people who own properties. There are about 200 acres of properties that have been identified in West Linn through this process so far, that could be rezoned or could become middle housing. And but those people don't know it. And so one of the first places to start on outreach and education is with those people, and to let them know that based on the study that's been done in the past few months, their properties may be eligible for this. It doesn't mean that those are the ones that are going to be slotted for it, because we don't exactly know what the code is going to look like yet. But I just wanted to make the CCI aware that that is out there, and there are a lot of people who need to be brought into the fold and educated.
Yeah, and I do think that there's some benefits of these virtual meetings. Like I think our neighborhood associations meetings are getting a lot more attendance than I think we've ever kind of seen with the Zoom meetings. But I think this whole you have to sign up by noon to testify at the public hearings really stops people from being able to, you know, come to planning commission and that kind of stuff, because I always think about it too late, you know. There's plenty of meetings I wanted to give testimony and then I like think about it too late, so I just like submit written testimony because it's too late. So I think that that's been the problem for your, you know, for planning commission and city council meetings, is that you can't just show up at the time of the meeting and get in. So I think having a combination of both is going to be, you know, important. Make it easy for people, you know, that want to do Zoom, and make it easy for people to be live in person if that's easier for them. All right. Anybody else? Betty, can you stop sharing a screen so I can see people again? Thank you. All right. I guess we will move on then.
So can we, sorry, Chair Knight.
Yeah.
So can we get some feedback then? So it sounds like the CCI really doesn't see anything that's missing in the plan. It seems like everybody thinks it's covered, just there's some unknowns about whether or not we can do in-person meetings. And of course, the educational materials component, which again, we'll bring those back to the CCI to review. But other than that, the plan looks pretty solid, and the CCI would endorse this is what we should use moving forward. We can bring it back to you again in June if we need to, but if not, we can start working on the educational materials.
Yeah, I think you're good. Do you want us to take like an official vote or something on this, or?
I don't know that it needs to be an official vote, but it would be nice to have your endorsement that this is a plan you've reviewed and have us move forward with it.
Everybody want to give a thumbs up on that? All right. Yep, I think you're good.
Yeah, and again, we can be fluid with the plan too. So if something comes up in August and we want to adjust the plan, we can do that as well. So, but this will give us a good template to follow and be able to go down the line and check things off as we do them.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Chair
Okay.
Knight, before
Yeah.
you would go on, I think I've got to leave the meeting. I've got a conflict, so I'll run off and see you all at the next meeting.
Okay, I wanted your feedback on the next item, but that's okay. We'll survive. Basically what it is I heard Councillor Relier say that he wants CCI to disappear and be back part of Planning Commission again.
I will hang on.
So that is what I heard in one of the meetings that I was listening to last week, and that caught my ear, and I was very concerned because I think that's what happened. Reason we have CCI the way it is now is because it was part of Planning Commission and people felt like they weren't getting enough public input. So I had that concern, and I thought, Gary, you had more background on that than I did.
So I guess what I can say, you're exactly right. My understanding is that the Planning Commission used to fulfill the CCI function, and then it sort of died off for several years. And I know when I started on the Planning Commission, we were not doing any of the CCI function. And then about 4 years ago, the CCI started up again, and but as a separate group. And as it was originally organized, there were 2 counselors. There was the chair of the Planning Commission, the president of the Neighborhood Association presidents, and then there were, let's see, slots. And I mean, granted, we're all resident citizens of West Linn, but I think it is imperative to bring other viewpoints and opinions to the CCI than those of us who are already on some sort of organization that has to do with city function. And so, you know, over the course of the past couple of years, the organization of the CCI has changed from, so now we have 5 members at large, and we have a council liaison. There are no councilors as members of the CCI as voting members. So it's more in line with the other advisory groups that council appoints. So from that perspective, I think it's a much better organization, just to bring other perspectives into the organization, into the group. So I guess ultimately, I don't want to see it die, because I think, because of everything I just said, it's just another way of bringing more information to bear. And the code is actually set up now. I mean, to wipe it out, you'd have to eliminate sections of the community development code.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a planning organization.
Okay. Yeah, so I just thought maybe we should discuss it and give a formal, you know, this is how we feel about it, kind of a thing to council, so that they at least have our input on that before they decide our fate.
And I guess just one more point is that, and Darren knows more of the details on this, but the CCI is a function of the state's land use planning law, and so it should be represented in some fashion. It's a matter of whether you want to have a separate organization, a separate group like we are now, or go back to the PC and the CCI together, which I don't recommend because we're already busy enough, or team it up with HRB, or you know, it has all sorts of options, but I think as a separate entity, it's has much more value.
Okay, thank you. You can
Thank
go
you.
if you want to.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Does anybody else have any thing they want to weigh in on that?
Oh, Shannon, this is Vicky. Why would he make such a statement? I mean, what's the purpose of, I don't understand even the purpose of that statement he made. The counselor that wants to dissolve CCI.
I think he feels like we're not doing enough work, and that it was more work was getting done when it was part of planning commission, is from what I remember the comments to be. I don't know, Mary, maybe you have, sounds like you had a discussion with him about it too. And
Yeah, I did. I think I kind of felt like he was just more thinking out loud. I was surprised kind of in the moment, because we've been talking in our council goal setting sessions about wanting more engagement. So, I mean, I think the CCI, especially right now when there's kind of a purpose right now, being this focus on the whole rollout of this education and outreach around these House bills, and the level of community engagement I anticipate will happen because people, as they learn, will get involved. And so I think it's really important to organize it through a group like CCI. So I think maybe having, like I suggested, a joint meeting with Planning Commission would be a good idea. But I can't, I only have positive thoughts about the CCI, and I've never heard anybody else say they don't think the CCI has a valuable role. So I don't think it's a thing.
Can somebody tell me what CCI stands for?
The Committee for Citizen Involvement.
Oh, that's us.
Yeah, yeah. So,
All
this
right,
is,
sorry, I'm not hip to the jargon yet, but I'll get
yeah.
there.
Oh, we'll fill your head full of jargon throughout this process.
I don't speak acronyms yet, but I'll get there.
So this is Darren. I'll just give you a little bit of sort of some background on some things. So the CCI is required through the Oregon statewide land use planning program. It's called Goal 1, and it requires the city to have a mechanism to basically evaluate their citizen involvement program. They're planning related, so it's specific to planning, but a lot of communities utilize the CCI to go beyond just planning, but that's its main purpose is to ensure that the planning process is meeting the needs of the citizens. And so previous jurisdiction I worked in utilized the Planning Commission as the CCI, and so what we would do with the Planning Commission is exactly what we're doing with you right now. Is when it would be a long-range planning project, we would put together an engagement plan to bring to the CCI for them to review and provide us feedback on. And so they acted in the manner you are, which is sort of ensuring for council that staff is putting together an engagement plan that meets the needs of the community for the planning process.
Got it.
And so my intention now, moving forward, is any kind of project that we're going to take out to the community, a long-range planning project, we will go through this process. Each one will have its own community engagement plan, and a lot of them are probably going to look similar, the same types of outreach and stuff, but timelines are going to be different, and maybe some of the outreach will be different depending on the breadth of the planning process. But yeah, it's really a mechanism to ensure that we're not missing anything, right?
Got it.
And again, the community I worked in previously, there was a large Hispanic Latino population there, as well as a pretty large Vietnamese speaking population there. So a lot of it revolved around making sure we had presentation materials that went out to those populations so they could be involved in it. That was a huge component of it. So starting to think about think around subject matters like that too. Yeah, so something to think about. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. But
thank you for filling me in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll just leave it as Mary, you know where we stand on that, and in case you guys have further discussions on it. All right. So other items of interest. Does anybody have anything they would like? No, not seeing anything. Okay. Items of interest from staff.
Betty, do you have anything?
No.
All right. So yeah, I'll just say that according to our plan, we as in Betty, Betty will start putting together some nice graphics and stuff to start bringing to the CCI to start reviewing. And then of course, we hope to get some consultant help on board for this phase 2 also, and have them start producing some things. And yeah, and we'll always be looking for volunteers for the videos if anyone wants to present some videos around House Bill 2001. So sign up now.
If I can just comment on that. Earlier when you mentioned the videos, I thought it would be so great if we could find, we have some celebrities living in West Linn. It would be great if we could engage, one of the trailblazers or some of the other people that are well-known to do something like that, a public service announcement. That would be, I think it would get a lot more attention than if it was me or no offense, Mary, but one of the city councilors or anybody like that. So I have no idea how to get in touch with those people, however.
Got some news, we got some news people, though they would be best because they're used to speaking on camera and stuff, right?
Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
Canzano or what's the weather, remember the weather guy?
Matt Zaffino.
No, I think it's a different one.
Uh,
Drew, maybe Drew or something. I don't know. I don't remember. He judged our pie contest at the farmer's market. Everyone else knew who he was. I didn't know who he was.